Hello and welcome. Welcome back if you've seen my previous videos. My name is Carter. I am a reborn dad and a reborn art doll painter. Today we are going to be working on creases for Lily. So let's dive right in. Creases are, I think, some of the most time-consuming parts. I think it's the most time-consuming single step, but I think it really makes the doll pop. It really brings out the skin tone and really brings out the depth that really brings the baby to life. It is the step that I consider bringing the baby to life. All of them are in their way. They're all important. The model adds the texture, the skin tone obviously adds, the skin tone, and then the blue shading adds depth, and then blushing adds the color to the cheeks and the noses and other places where you'd have blushing. But I really enjoy the way that creasing just adds the dimension. It turns it from looking a little bit flat to having that real depth, and it really makes me appreciate the sculptor's work. Because that's where you get into all the fine details of the sculpt. Oops. I'm using these two brushes, there we go, Montmartre, I believe. I got these particular ones off of Amazon, but I first found them in either Home Goods or TJ Maxx. Very good price for what they are. If you go to Michael's and try to find brushes this small, you're gonna pay $5 for one versus $10 for a set of 4. They also came with this curved one that I don't really know what to do with, but it feels like it would be useful for something. As always, this is not a tutorial. This is just me painting and having fun chatting as I paint, sharing my thoughts on the kit, other kits, my experiences as a reborn artist, and just sort of anything random that pops into my head. I hope you enjoy. These are going to be longer videos, so grab a snack, grab some water. I have my water with me on the floor because I have no room on my desk. Let's see, we did that already, so we gotta do that. I hope you're enjoying the longer form videos. I am, personally. I think that makes the long trek of painting reborn dolls a little less lonely to have. Just to have some things to talk about. Talked about a little bit before how the reborn hobby feels a little isolating at times. But it's also a really great community once you meet people in it. Yeah. Next up is her little ear. With heat set, I can do a lot more playing around with the creases. and I can get them a lot more feathered out. When I was working with air dry, it was sort of a race against the clock every time I put a little bit of paint on, because you're working with a thicker layer compared to your washes and your skin tone and your model layers. You are working with something that you want to be able to really see. It's subtle, but you still want to see it. And it works best to be this sort of thick consistency. Like, this doesn't look like I have a lot of paint in here, but it really goes far, especially with the heat set paint. Like I said before in previous videos, I'm working with Gemini heat set paints, and I'm really liking them. I've tried Irresistibles. I actually have one sort of sitting here because I was trying it for a brow color. And that was before they had their own thinning medium, but I was struggling with that. But I've seen some beautiful results with Irresistibles. Yeah, so I don't know, it's not taking me too long to do the head. The head is where you get the least amount of creases, I think. At least the least amount in terms of like closeness to each other, like least dense. But if I feel like this video is going on too long, I might do like her little head, her hand, this is a foot, her leg, her arm, and do the other ones off camera depending on how long it's taking. I also use the same color for my creases that I use for the lips and the nails, just sort of at a different consistency. Sorry, same with capillaries and little scratches if I do scratches. I haven't done scratches in a while. I feel like they add a lot to the baby, but at the same time, I just don't do them that often unless I'm going in with a plan to do that. I used to give them a lot more when I was starting out. Like, I was a little more wanting to give those realistic details because the artist that I was really admiring at the time had just incredibly realistic details, like the dry skin, the milia, baby scratches, all sorts of things. And the artists that I'm following more now just seem to have cleaner, I don't know if that's the word I want to use, but like more picture perfect babies. I don't know. But I like to do little stork bites. I did one on my Levi, on his forehead. I'm really excited to put him together, but I have to be patient because I really want the supplies that I'm waiting for to come. And it's one of those supplies that's like, well, it's sort of optional, but to me it's not. I'll talk about it a little in the video that I'm planning to do. I'm planning to do a A little bit of an Amazon haul. Because, like I said, I had to buy a few things. And I thought, well, I'm on here, I may as well get some baby stuff, and I may as well get the supply that I've been thinking about getting. She's got a little tucked in lip. This is maybe one of my favorite like expressions that reborn babies do. Levi's got it, Lux has got it. Nevea, if you're familiar with Cassie Brace kits, also. She was my very first doll. I still have her, but her paint is really faded. So we're going to come back and do a second layer of lip color, I believe, because it's a little pale. But right now we're going to work on some capillaries. I still have my very first reborn baby. I don't have my second. I kind of miss my second. I loved the painting on him. A little thick. Let's try that again. And I loved the sculpt in theory, but in person, I don't know. He felt too small for his size. He was like a 3-month size baby. And I think sort of designed to look a little older. But his head was smaller than Nevea's. And Nevea's a preemie. I don't spend a lot of time with real babies, so sometimes I'm like, I don't know what's most accurate, but his head was smaller than this newborn's. And he was supposed to be like a 3-month baby. But I loved his smiley face. And his painting was phenomenal. If you're familiar with Kits to Cradles, you just know her work is beautiful. And I have currently 1 Kits to Cradles baby, or I guess technically 2, but I just sold my partial silicone by her. I really like adding capillaries. And like I said, with the heat set, they're so much more forgiving. So much more forgiving. They can be really, really subtle. I like adding them here by the ears, here on the eyebrows. I like adding them in the ears, but a lot of ears are hard to actually do that. Let me see if I can, because I don't want the line to be too thick. Branch off again. Yeah, I think that's good. So at this point of filming, I have posted 4 videos and scheduled 2 more. I haven't really gotten any views or comments because, like I said, it's only been 1 day. And I am also not the type of person to like advertise on my social media. And my social media doesn't have that much interaction because I don't post that much. I almost forgot these creases here. Oops. A little spot. I might leave that little spot just lightly. So yes, at the time of posting, there are 4 videos up. No, at the time of recording, there are 4 videos up. 2 more scheduled. I went a little crazy. And just sort of decided that all of the things that I've been thinking about recording, it's time to record them. So I believe I'm just going to check her out really quickly because I think we've got the first layer done. I only do 1 layer of creases. I just come back and get another layer of lip color on her. Although, no, she definitely needs another. So I'm going to pause, pop her in the oven, and be back with a little foot. Okay. So here's with the foot. You can see there's a lot more creases. And that's very realistic. If you look at a reborn kit's foot, there's just so many creases. Sculpted kits are always going to be more manageable for that. So if you're starting out and you're like overwhelmed by a reborn kit, try one of Bountiful Baby's artist kits. They're similarly priced. They just don't have as much detail. It's still really cute. It's still really realistic, but it's not as daunting. Denise Pratt makes some really cute kits. I painted when I was starting out. I want to say Ireland? I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce the name. But she was a cutie. She's big open eyes. Little tucked in lip. In the camera, yeah. And I remember she was actually my first baby that sold. She didn't stay with her first mom very long, but her second mom actually came back to me for a custom. I believe. I think that's who I'm thinking of. So, even if dolls sell, even if you sell a doll and that person doesn't keep the doll, they'll still end up loved. And that's my favorite thing about Reborn. One of my favorite things about Reborns is that there is a doll for everyone. It just might take a bit of a journey for that baby to get where it needs. Yeah, so we're just getting in here with the little creases. I feel like this is going faster just because I'm talking. It might not be going very fast for you as a viewer. I don't come into these with a real plan. I probably should at least have like a loose layout of what I'm going to talk about. It's a little watery, hold on. You want this nice thick consistency. You don't want it to be too runny, but you also don't want it to be too thick. But just enough that you can play with it. Again, I keep putting my arm in the frame. I'm so sorry. Yeah, this part takes a little more concentration than my other videos did, so I'm trying not to be too quiet. But I'm also trying not to make a mistake. If you are a YouTuber who knows how to add or make it possible to listen to music or have music in the background while I do this, so that there's not so many awkward pauses, let me know, because I could probably look this up, and I probably should look this up. But sometimes you just need to go to the experts right away instead of trying to figure this stuff out on your own. Yes. I took a look today at some of my kits that I am planning on painting for my own collection. I currently have 2 blanks that I want to add to my own collection, and they are kind of unique in that they are fantasy kits. They are both elves, and I'm really excited to paint them. I was so excited to paint them that I primed them with gesso for my air dry paints, and then I moved and I was like, now's as good a time as any to switch to heat set paint or try learning heat set paint. Well, everything was sort of all jumbled together and a mess, and I was setting up my new area, my new studio. So I can't really do what I do now with them. So I can't heat set paint them because they've already been primed with acrylics. And I wanted to see, like, how bad would it be if I had a test loom that I just primed with the gesso to see, like, what would happen. And the answer was it turned into sort of a textural nightmare and smelled really bad. So we're not doing that. We're going back to air dry for that for that project. I might do a video on it just to show how I do my air dry works for anyone who's curious, but at the same time, I'm a little nervous because it's been over a year since I did air dry. I could do a video on heat set versus air dry paints. Maybe both from a collection standpoint and a painting standpoint. Very lightly want to get into the creases on the fingers and the toes. I use the same color, like I said, for the nails too, but I always come back to do them afterwards. I think that would be interesting because when you're starting out painting, I think a lot of people will go for whatever they have the space for or whatever seems less daunting. For me, I was in an apartment, so I was like, I can't be putting fumes everywhere, and I don't really have the space for it. And I also wasn't using Facebook Marketplace at the time. Like, I wasn't really familiar with it, so I was like, I'm not spending all this money on a new new wave oven. So I went with air dry, and I think a lot of people do similar. But I feel like it's newer to use air dry paints. as this starting point. Like if you were getting into painting 10 years ago, you'd be starting with heat set. Correct me if I'm wrong, I've only been in the reborn hobby for 5 years now. I've been aware of reborns for longer than that, but I only really got into them, I was 25, I think. I just moved out and was like, I'd known about them for a really long time, and when I was a kid really wanted one. By kid I mean like 12 or 13. Which is funny because I also at that time was like, I absolutely do not want a real child, actually. There we go, we gotta feather that out a little more. Okay, this isn't going too bad. This isn't going too slowly. At least not from my perspective. Yeah, I might do a change in chat about, like, the full story of how I got into reborns and, like, what got me into them. I don't know if I'll feature, the very first reborn that I got. I don't think I will, just because she needs some work. That's another air dry paint project, because she was originally painted with air dry paints, and she really faded. Her hair's not fantastic anymore, and none of this is like a complaint on her artist. I think it's just the type of paint that that artist used is prone to losing the red color. She might not have been varnished very well, but she might also have just been painted a little more pale than I prefer. But yeah. And I always feel weird about, like, just the thought of, even if I'm just fixing her up, even if I'm not, like, stripping her and starting over again. Okay, so see, it's been 12 minutes. Even if I'm not stripping her and starting over again, I still feel bad about the potential for doing my own work on somebody else's work. If that makes sense. I know that's, like, sort of a debated topic of, like, should you even do this? I'm going to put her hand down and get her head out of the oven. So personally, I think that if you buy a doll from me, you are allowed to do whatever you want with that doll. Like, it's yours now. That is your baby. If you want to reweight that baby, go for it. If you want to add details that I didn't add, absolutely. If you want to completely strip that doll and paint it yourself, that is not my business. I've seen sometimes when it's, like, made me a little sad that an original artist work got destroyed. There was somebody who had beautifully painted hair that sold a doll, and somebody found it secondhand where just the hair had been stripped because they were planning on, where somebody had been planning on rooting the head instead. And that was a little heartbreaking, but if that happened to me, I don't know how I'd feel about it. Like, a little sad, obviously, but at the end of the day, it's not up to me what happens to that doll. But also keep in mind that, like, you can do rooting over painted hair, so you don't need to destroy somebody's work to get painted hair, to get rooted hair. So that was a few years back now. I don't know what happened with that, but it was just heartbreaking to see, because I really admire painted hair, people who can paint hair. It's challenging, and I think painted hair really has a good place in... I just realized I haven't been in the frame that much. Painted hair really has a good place in, like, durability. My second baby, he had painted hair, and it was beautifully done. And it was nice not to have to worry about, like, when dressing him or changing him, I didn't have to brush his hair because it was already styled perfect. When I first started getting into rooted hair, I was terrified that I would damage it. See, what was that all about? Yes, I was terrified that I would damage my rooted hair, that I'd just yank it all out, putting a onesie on them. And it just took me some time to get used to having the hair, and now I'm a little bit more like, I know I've glued it in there, I know I use good quality mohair, I still want to protect it. So I always send home little satin squares. But for my own babies, my own vinyl babies that I've done, I don't protect the hair that much. I just sort of brush it when it needs brushing and try to treat it gentle. Not too uncareful, but I'm also not letting my anxiety get in the way of handling them. Yeah. I might just pause here just so I can come back if I need to cut the rest of the video. It's been 32 minutes. So, yeah, I'll come back either with this little foot and this little hand, or we'll come back with her head once it's cooled. Okay, so her head's out of the oven. It's still a little warm, but it doesn't really matter because this is our stopping point. You can really see, I think, the difference between where we started today and where we ended up. Like, she is almost done. The very next step and the very last step, kind of 2 steps in one, is going to be blushing her cheeks, her nose, her chin, on the ears. I add a little on the neck sometimes, not all the time. And then her limbs, of course. Anywhere that there would be red blushing, we're going to blush. And that's going to be our more or less last step with the painting. The very final step is going to be her eyebrows, but that is not something I'm going to film because it takes me a minute and it's not that interesting. I probably also won't film myself, like I said, rooting or using the varnish, but I will come back with like a update on how she's looking once she's all complete. And I don't know if I'll do a little video on her while she's still bald, or if I want to do that. I think I'll just skip to when she's all done. But I will talk about what I use for matte varnish in the next video, which I am honestly probably going to record right after this one. I still have a lot of energy left, and I still have a lot of, you know, daylight to do some painting. So I think I will continue on with her painting for today, post this video. I know I've been posting a lot. I still don't really know what sort of schedule I'll be looking at more long term if I keep posting videos. I want to do a lot of different videos, like changing chats, shopping hauls when I have shopping hauls, and more painting, more kit reviews. I don't know if I'll ever do something like this again, because my painting is basically the same stuff over and over again as of now. If I get my own method for painting other skin tones, I might come back with that, or if I change my painting style in any way, I might come back. But let me know if you like these. If you like these, I'll keep making them. Like I said, I will never run out of stuff to talk about with Reborns, so it's just a matter of, like, do I keep painting or do I do something else? I really like the way her lip is shaped. It's just really cute. Okay. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, a comment. Subscribe if you want more videos. I will make more videos. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Take very good care.